Hello. Welcome. Hi. What's up? What are we here to do today?
We are here to revisit, re-kick off, reimagine, re-talk about. No, we are
We yes, we talk about offset
re-talk about.
paths.
Yes, we're here to talk about Offset Path. Offset Path is a creative discussion series where we at Black Sheep talk about brands and creative campaigns that we have built for social impact. And we're continuing this series by revisiting our work with the downtown district.
Yeah, so the downtown district of Houston has been a client of Black Sheep for a couple years. And we recently rolled out a new campaign for them. And so we wanted to take a chance to talk about it, given that so many of us were in a very strange space in the last year of trying to stay creative and stay nimble. This is not news to anybody, but this was a good chance for us to reflect back on that work ourselves and talk about how we were solving these problems to create a creative solution that allowed us to stay nimble amid massive changing health conditions and tonal conversations and cultural moments. So yeah, let's get started. Let's talk about why we're even here talking about these things.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Who am I? I am Bill Ferenc. I'm the senior designer and illustrator at the Black Sheep Agency.
Dope. And I'm Caitlin Greenwood. I'm the digital director, and I have been a partner to Bill as a creative on this campaign. So that's why we're here to talk about it, because we helped bring it to life. And so let's kind of jump in really directly as to why we even kind of launched on this path. We had a pretty distinct challenge from the client. This was our kind of interpretation of the language that they gave to us, but they really came to us, and this was May, do you think? Maybe a little bit later, maybe through the end of the summer, but looking at August 2020, and they wanted to communicate a sense of urgency for Houstonians to come downtown without creating additional fear or anxiety. We obviously had all endured COVID-19 hitting us in March, and especially through the summer, Houston was hit very strongly. We had a really hard time with managing new cases here in the city. And so downtown, which is this hub of our economic heart of the region, a lot of creative and innovative startups have their house downtown, or excuse me, their HQ downtown. We have nightlife and entertainment. It's where our theater district is. It's where the Astros Stadium, Minute Maid Park is. It really is a center for activity, and all of that in the course of COVID-19 pandemic taking over Houston had really quieted those voices and quieted those activities. And I mean, Bill, you can speak to kind of where downtown was before. You had been doing work for them, and it was a completely different time for the neighborhood. And really, we were on a completely different direction, kind of talking about this community and this intersection of business and play and fun and community. And so let's talk a little bit about where we were, knowing that this is where we're going to get to, right?
I mean, really, downtown, we talk about it as it's the heart of Houston. It's where all these sort of different lives and people and different cultures and work kind of intersect and become this sort of hub of activity in the city. And so back when we were working on working with them initially, this was back in 2018, about summer of 2018. We're talking about sort of harness all that activity around downtown and how things are growing, and how we can sort of appeal to people who maybe live in the area but don't go downtown that often, or even people who you've been living here a while, you've never been there before. But even people who are common visitors, and a bunch of different audiences, how we can sort of keep the energy around downtown alive, how we can keep people excited about it, keep them going downtown and keep engaging. So I think we can talk about what the campaign is and what it's called. So that's sort of what the idea was around this, about what meet downtown means. It's sort of this sort of dual purpose, like dual tagline sort of thing, where it's like, maybe you haven't been downtown in a while and you want to get down there. We want you to be here and meet downtown again, like see how things have changed and see how things are growing. But then also you can think about it as like, you know, you're going to make some plans with friends or family and you can send them a message and you can say, hey, meet downtown, meet me downtown. So we kind of like the dual purpose of that. And it felt really exciting and fresh and new. And we liked that sort of had this like almost like conversational aspect to it. And that kind of actually came to life in the creative. So when we
Yeah, it seems like the way that we had concepted this campaign initially was, like you were saying, it has that wonderful double entendre of like physically meet the character of downtown, but also like come and find yourself in the downtown experience. And we really had this through line originally of this conversation, right? Like you wanted downtown to talk to you and you wanted to be able to talk downtown. And so here we were seeing some of that direction come through in this like really bold way, but it was offering like these moments of conversation. Could you talk about it a little more?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, we really wanted this campaign to feel authentic and sort of capture the voice of downtown and the people that go downtown in this city. So we actually gathered quotes that people posted on social media of all these really interesting moments or like really kind of unique things they had said about being in downtown. And we sort of like harnessed the energy from that. And that was really what drove the creative. And then we also wanted them to show up in kind of unexpected or like interesting places. So like,
yeah, I love this. This ended up being on the Metro Wrap, didn't it? Yeah.
So, I mean, we had this really great, like fully illustrated piece that would kind of move through the city, move through downtown. And this goes out to like, you know, the museum district. And it was sort of a way to like grab people's attention and like follow the message downtown basically, which was really cool and really cool to see this in person. We got to do one initially for the launch and then we got to revisit it and do another design. So it was just a really cool kind of integral piece to the campaign.
That's awesome. And then there were all of these, like, in addition to these physical structures that kind of existed around town, there were these like traditional and, like you said, non-traditional kind of campaign placement. So we had like the elevator decals, the coasters that you're seeing here, and all of these were those quotes, but they had this illustrative component to it, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, kind of touching on that, like the handwriting is all they're all handwritten quotes. So like kind of like capture like the personality, but also the like the authenticity of that. It's like something someone actually said. And it's like, we wanted them to almost feel like something you would see someone like wrote on like a napkin and like left in a bar, you know, like kind of like these like really kind of cool moments. And then the illustrations got brought in to sort of like kind of help deepen that story a little bit. So the quote bubbles are all kind of like really funky and interesting. The handwritten text is really kind of, you know, unique and interesting, but then like the sort of like illustration, those are like pops of illustration elements kind of help.
Like the characters came out of all of this, right?
Yeah. So, and that was almost like an evolution itself. Like initially it was really just about the focus is this hand-drawn quote, but then we realized like, wow, we're making this really cool kind of world of illustration. Like we're doing people, we're doing food, the buildings, like all these scenery. And it was like, let's figure out a way to really kind of bring those in and have them be used in really different ways and exciting ways. And so that you kind of see it was just the quotes, and then maybe like we'll bring in a photo, but then we'll put the illustrations on the photo. And then like some of them even got like to be 100% illustration. And it was all about like creating this really, you know, unique and different look for like a downtown district. It was like, this is something that I don't think very many people had done before for like anything, like putting this much attention onto illustration is really cool.
Yeah. And something that was so interesting about this campaign where we were is exactly what you're talking about, of like downtowns usually get this kind of like stoic, really kind of like a buttoned up, like, look at the nice townhome, look at the cool building. And there was something that was like very playful about this, which feels really specific to Houston itself. Like Houston is a really mishmash of all of these different things between arts and culture and enterprise and business and history, but newness, and like getting to see all that come to life was really exciting and felt really representative of like the neighborhood in a way that allowed it to be kind of what it is, like it's not particularly buttoned up. It's not particularly devoid of that character, and this really kind of breathed life into that, right?
For sure, yeah. And I even had, it was really cool. Would have friends or even new people I met stop me and be like, or I would tell them I worked on this campaign. They'd be like, that was so different and so cool to see something like, downtown Houston do something like that really stands out. I was like, you're right. That's why we did it.
Yes. And so we'd been rocking with this campaign 18 months, I want to say, maybe from concept to around when we started having these conversations that started in March of 2020 and then got us to, the fall, and it was the pandemic, like we'd been sitting with this campaign for a while. It had a lot of life still left on it, and yet COVID changed everything. And this vibrancy that we had spent so much time cultivating and this unique touch to downtown now felt inappropriate in a way because it wasn't accurate to what was happening, like people had to go into quarantine, people had to start working from home, that day-to-day interaction of being downtown and going out to lunch or going to see the ballet, like that all halted.
Right.
And I mean, I think you can talk about this a little bit more, but so much of the dialogue that we had expected from people that really fueled the beginning portion of the Meet Downtown campaign just kind of went silent. And so it left us with this weird question of like, well, what is the new voice supposed to be?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And like even the name of the campaign, like Meet Downtown, like during the pandemic, you're not going to tell people to go like, hey, meet me anywhere, because no one's
stay where you are. I will see you later. And I think all of us optimistically, when we were going into lockdown in March, thought a couple of months. And then by the time that we really started in earnest having these conversations with the client, we all knew that this was going to be longer than kind of a short-term solution. And so we started really thinking about what it would be to get us from where we were into a place where we could support downtown,
right,
without knowing really kind of what was ahead. And we took some first stabs at kind of like making that work with the campaign that we had. So this was like filling in the new normal as the new normal was happening, right?
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of it was like we're in reaction mode. It was like things are happening so fast. We still want to like tell people that downtown is here. We want to like, promote some form of like togetherness and optimism. So it was like we needed to be able to put out some type of messaging. And so at the time it was like really more about like, hey, we can get through this. Like we're in this together. We can get through this. And so that's what these social posts ended up being, was just like, trying to like talk about downtown as this still like it's part of the city and it's like it's here here for you emotionally, but we're gonna figure out like what we can do, in the meantime to kind of like at least like talk about the situation that we're all going through.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that was interesting about this is because of where we were with Meet Downtown, you'll see in these social examples, they were really dependent on illustration, right? And part of that was also like a creative problem that anybody in the creative field was in from most of 2020, is that you couldn't get new photos, right? You were stuck in this space of the only thing that I can create are illustrations, animations, things that are able to be drawn from home. And so it created this kind of extension of the campaign where we really shifted to illustration because we were so, we didn't have stock photos of people with masks on or people socially distancing. And so this became this like, okay, let's try and keep the conversation going, but we have to talk about it accurately.
Right.
We don't have photography to support that accuracy right now.
Yeah.
So left us with a real puzzle. And
Yes.
I guess I want to ask you, Bill, since you had worked on these, what was kind of the experience of making these? Like, did you feel as you were making them that it was maybe, I guess, the best articulation of the campaign, or did it just kind of feel like we got to get this out, we got to be able to talk about it, and we're going to do our best?
Yeah.
But there was almost maybe something left to be desired in kind of the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, we definitely are always like, wanting to be putting out like the best looking design, the best messaging possible. And so I think that's what we did. I feel like at Black Sheep, we're very good at adapting and evolving and sort of thinking on our feet. So I think this was like the right thing to do at the time, to like still try to engage with the audience, like tell people that downtown is here, but do that in a way that does like, it's accurate to like, what we're all going through. Like, and it was careful. It was like definitely a balance of like, we can't really tell people much about what is safe right now because things
Right.
have
We don't
changed.
know. Yeah, absolutely.
So this was like, I think this was the right thing to do at the time. And then like, yeah, obviously there's like, we're getting through it, and this is moving into like, early fall into the winter of 2020. That's when it was like, okay, let's really think now again and revisit.
Yeah. So the client came to us and we were asked by downtown to rethink Meet Downtown. Initially, it was, let's take what we have and see if we can make that language, make that visual and creative, landscape that we had put all this time and energy to, see if we can find a way to direct that towards attention and urgency for the neighborhood, really. And in thinking about that, we had spent so much time with Meet Downtown, architecting it around real people telling real stories. And we knew we wanted to maintain that, but that facilitation of getting those conversations through social media and making them feel really illustrated and fun, we knew that just didn't reflect where Houston was tonally,
right.
And we knew that downtown businesses needed more than, I would say, a flirtation. Like, the part of what I loved about Meet Downtown is that it was like kind of flirty and fun, and like it really was engaging, but we needed an engagement that came with action, right? Like, we were asked by the client, who is facing, numbers of stakeholders who are like, I don't have a lunch crowd anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anybody come in for coffee. I don't know how I'm going to rent my building. I don't know how we're going to keep this venue alive. Really dire problems. And Meet Downtown hadn't really been architected around that sense of urgency, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so this was like a chance for us to kind of bust it wide open, even though the client only asked for a pivot. And we said, well, maybe we can think about it differently.
Yeah.
Because we want to build a framework that really allows us to build into what is a big unknown, right? We didn't know like that vaccines were going to be so close around the corner. We didn't know that, here we are in June, June of 2021, that this would be kind of a different climate for our public health. So we really were like, how do we take this visual tonal language and make it speak to this monumental change that we've gone through,
and still have it be exciting,
exciting, personable, authentic, like that downtown is its own thing. And so we wanted to feel like its own thing. It doesn't look like every other downtown. It doesn't sound like every other downtown. It doesn't map out like every other downtown. And I think my favorite like fact about downtown Houston is that Houston as a city, like downtown is literally the physical location where Houston grew from. It's like the seed that the entire city blossomed into. So it's this really special thing. And we didn't want to, like, for the sake of ease, just, I don't want to say hope that we got it right, because we would never do that, but like really craft something that could celebrate all of that in a time when there needed to be action drawn to it. And so we got to work.
Yeah. on some, these are very early, rough kind of sketch concepts. But we kind of almost took two different approaches to it. So the one on the left you're seeing with that big now, it was like, we're everywhere in the country is like trying to determine and figure out like what is safe to do. Things are changing every day, week to week. And so the idea here was that like we could really spell out like, here are things in downtown Houston you can do right now, and then list those things out. And so it sort of like really kind of leaned into that urgency, leaned into like the importance, and even was like, this was starting to be around the time where like people were like, maybe I'll go out, I have my mask on, I can go do something, but what can I do? And this was sort of like, that was the solution there. It was like, we can tell people what they can do safely, and here's when you can do it, which is right now.
Yeah, we really tried to root this direction in the mindset of the audience that had been coming downtown initially, right? The people that would go there for happy hour or would go there for entertainment, or were coming downtown for their job, or coming downtown for like, date night, whatever it was. We wanted to really speak to them. And you posed that, you posed it perfectly. Everybody was kind of sitting there being like, what can I do? Like, I'm so exhausted. What can I do? And this whole idea was around answering that question. Here's what you can do. And now, and so that was the one approach. And then the other approach that we took was more centered around kind of downtown's identity, right?
Yeah, the identity and like sort of like the emotional side of things. This was more the like, I would say this is the more like tugging at the heartstrings sort of direction, where it was like, let's like
cue Sarah McLachlan in the background, right?
Just like really showing those like really unique downtown moments, almost like close-ups of like all the things that we love to do when we're downtown. So like it was going to see a baseball game, and instead of having the like, Louisville Slugger or whatever like logo on the bat, we replace it with the word comeback. And then seeing the cocktail napkin with like, and we were, talking about like, it could be like the comeback lounge, like just like kind of like funny or interesting ways to like bring that word into the design, and like really get people thinking about like how good it would feel to be back in downtown and doing these things.
Yeah, and we'd build Meet Downtown with that same kind of duality, and Comeback carried that too, of like, this is a comeback story, this is a comeback moment, but we're actually telling you like a direct thing of come back. And so we evolved both of these passed through first round. We liked them both. And so we kept exploring them. And you had talked about like the Louisville Slugger and stuff. And one was really focused on, it seems like some activity, and the other was focused almost on these vignettes. And from a creative standpoint, how did you kind of determine those two directions? What made you want to explore both of those spaces?
I think with that, like the now one, it was like, I really loved the urgency and excitement that we could build around it. And I had sort of like made this pattern of the word now early on. And I was like, I liked the sort of like movement that had. I liked thinking of the O as almost like this window into downtown. And I really thought there could be like, just like a lot of variety that we could build into that, and like really incorporate photos in an interesting way. And then the comeback version, it was like, really thinking it more as like a photo kind of campaign, and really honing in on those moments that like could feel like, like emotional and like powerful, like that bat being held up, like ready to like swing and hit a home run. Like that's like, such a good feeling. And then even like being in a bar and singing in a bar with your friends, and like, that moment there feels really important. And then I think like the to-go bag one is more just like, was a cool design and like a really, just like a more humorous way to talk about it. So there was like, I like the sort of like emotional variety happening in the comeback version.
Totally. Any creatives who are listening to this, always bake in one idea that makes you laugh, because then you will be motivated at 9 o'clock at night when you have to do that deck. Yeah, I thought that this was great. I mean, like both took a really different approach to solve for this problem. And then we kind of, I don't want to say we did a 180 because that's not what it was, but we really started kind of parsing through the meat of both of these. And one was this really emotional swell almost, and the other was this really direct statement about what downtown was, and they kind of like both bubbled to the top and then came crashing together. And I remember we were really trying to parse through. My creative process is I try and get things super simple. I really wanted to just say it without having to debate about it. And so I think that this was like something that everybody tacked onto a little bit, but we landed on this gut statement that's just like punch from the heart that was about downtown. And I'll read it out loud because I feel like it really gave us this path that we'd been looking for as to how we were going to architect this campaign in a time when it felt really hard to figure out how to do this. You know, it was like, how do you punctuate the confusion? How do you punctuate the fact that like there are very real concerns that people are bringing to this? And how do you punctuate the fact that like something has to happen now or we're going to lose these businesses and lose these people in this neighborhood? And so downtown is a living testament to the defiant swagger of Houston, a true reflection of who we are. This campaign is a direct call for human connection with an urgent message. We are all a part of this community, so let's show up for each other. Downtown businesses are challenged like never before, but we are a city that knows how to take care of each other. Together, we are downtown. And from there, it kind of exploded, and it became this place too, which carried that kernel from Meet Downtown into this was, how do we talk about downtown, not from buildings and street signs and, you know, red carpets and I don't know, really beautiful table settings, but really from people, from the people that are a part of this. And this was where we got to, and we are downtown, you know, it's basic, it's very simple. It could go by unnoticed, but we wanted to draw attention to the collective of people and pups, as you see here, that are going to be with downtown no matter what happens, and almost invite the rest of the city to see themselves ingrained in this community too.
Yeah, and I think that's it was just like a really, I don't know, it was like a really logical but kind of like a smart move on our end to sort of like realize that what was maybe missing from those first two and earlier concepts was like, what are we really trying to get at here? Like, who are we really trying to talk to? What stories are we really trying to tell? And it kind of came down to like, well, this is like the story of us in downtown. And so the sort of, I like the way you put it, sort of like this collective of people and places and stories, and focusing on like the human element of that, and not, right, like you said, like not the buildings or like, you know, the sort of more generic elements. This is really like those like special things and special people about downtown. And so like, how do we talk about that? How do we say that? And like, this is what came out of that discussion.
Yeah. And something that was important too is that we wanted to build a campaign that still carried that through line that you'd done with the kind of downtown now concept of providing action, right? Like we wanted to tell these stories and let these people be able to speak for themselves, is to say like, we need you to show up. We need you to donate. We need you to, you know, commit to a membership that's going to get us through this next phase. And so you really kind of built the campaign elements around the punch of those actions, right? And so we like kind of created this, I mean, I'm a huge sticker fan. So we created lots of fun stickers and almost banner tape and stuff that really, again, drove home like, here are the people, here are the stories, but let us visually tell you what needs to come out of this, right?
Yeah. So, and even kind of pulling from that like earlier design element of that repeating word now was like, I loved the movement that we can get from that. And so we still took that idea and brought it into this, so it could feel like just like really kind of interactive and like bring more motion into these things, and like have it feel exciting, but also like informative in a really smart way. So like, you know, repeating the word stay or work over and over, kind of like kind of, it just really kind of drives and helps tell the idea of what we're, what we're trying to say, what we're trying to do. It's like get people thinking about downtown, thinking about what they can do downtown, and sort of like showing and telling and being engaging in this sort of unique way in this campaign.
Yeah, and pragmatically too, because we were in this really weird interim space of not having a lot of video content, this was a way for us to be flexible with animation, right?
Yeah.
Which was something that we were like kind of racking our brains as to try and solve for. How do we keep movement in a time where we can't rely on video, right? And so this was like a way to kind of solve for that.
Yeah, for sure. And even like how to provide design pieces that could be dispersed, almost like a toolkit to like get other people, get other businesses like engaged in the campaign to really kind of, I don't know, like really solidify the we aspect of We Are Downtown.
Yeah. And so we migrated all of this into a couple of different spaces. This was the email, and we were trying to empower this new look and feel to take hold and showcase the safe, actionable activities that people could participate in. And then again, using those elements that you had bundled to really drive, a full scroll or clicks or something like that, because they were intended to place emphasis. And then we also had just some really fun, I don't think these have come to fruition in totality, but it was that emphasis of we, and really placing ownership in the hands of the people that live and work downtown, right?
Yeah, so like, we had talked about this t-shirt idea where we could get everyone to like wear this, wear this logo, wear this word mic, and feel like this sort of collective empowerment of being together, and we're all saying we are downtown. It doesn't matter if like you're working in a coffee shop or you're working in a hotel, you're all contributing to the greatness that is downtown Houston.
Yeah. And then the invitation that we kind of embedded into the downtown community, where you wanted to extend to people as they felt safe to come and revisit downtown. And so we rolled out all of these campaign elements that you had designed onto social channels. And this was for Instagram. Yeah. And so these are live. You can search for these if you're on Instagram and you go to your little Giphy plugin, you can search downtown Houston, and all of these elements are a way for you to customize your photos as you're downtown. And so we had mocked these up for those of us that were very optimistic about going and getting a drink or going back to the office. Right. But this was also, you had architected with the intention, like you were just saying, so that downtown businesses can be providing that real-time content and stay in the vein of the campaign.
Yeah. I mean, like we really wanted it to feel like this, like I said, sort of this like collective movement. And just like have it be a fun tool to use. Like we've built out more stickers and Giphies since then, and there's just like lots of ways that you can take these downtown Houston elements and make really kind of fun and exciting posts on your Instagram. And like even just using what's there, like you can take a photo and just fill it up with all these different sort of arrows and like words and movement, and it like make some pretty cool designs. I was experimenting with it for
I was making like an interesting kind of basket weave of all of the cool banners that you had created. It's really engaging and fun. We encourage you all to do that, and hashtag it We Are Downtown Hugh when you are downtown in Houston, and then we will get to see them. Maybe they'll be shared on some of our social channels, so zip around that. Part of the campaign too that we really tried to emphasize is, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but we had these illustrated components, but so much of what we wanted to communicate with the campaign was getting people to feel safe and getting people to feel aware of what they could do. And we knew that illustration wasn't the best conduit for that, since it's a little bit more imaginative and a little bit more fun. And we wanted for people to feel fun with specificity, right? I think is the way to, and so we had baked in with the client of really saying what is going to help drive home, wonderful banner images, skin the website, put these into your email, but something that's going to be really vital is that you need to showcase downtown in the moment. And so we had encouraged the client to look to events that they could live stream or provide, TikToks for or whatever, so that people could visually see the experience of engaging with downtown in a safe way.
I think that, and like I just imagine how like sort of helpful and comforting that would feel to be like maybe thinking about wanting to go out, but still having a little bit of hesitation, but then being like, seeing a live stream from downtown, being like, oh, well, people there, they're being careful, they're being, they're staying far enough apart. Now I feel empowered to like really make the decision that I can go there, I can feel good about being there, and I'll be safe. And so
Yeah.
just a really smart way to tell that story.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it gives the stakeholders of downtown the opportunity to be the authors of that story in the moment, and reach maybe those people that are experiencing some hesitation or are feeling on the fence or unsure of what they can do. It is that real moment of saying, you can come do this, let us show you how.
Yeah.
And we brought that, events are a big part of downtown. And as we're very luckily opening up in some regards, we had created this template for us to showcase, again, those events, but really with the elements of the campaign to pop and drive that direction and that movement forward.
Yeah, like I love how this came to life too. Like, and I liked that we sort of had made the decision to like think about illustration as almost like, what do we say? Not like a side element, but almost like a little extra little piece. It's not the main.
It was an accent. It became an accent instead of the focus. It was a highlight instead of the subject.
Yeah.
And that really just allowed the focal point of the story visually and tonally to be the person, the hotel lobby. Shout out to my dog who is going to yell at somebody, of course, as we're wrapping. But we kind of showcased digital, all of the elements that we had in here, and this culminated in print. And so we kind of rolled out the campaign in its largest format, I guess, with the Downtown magazine. So this was the spring issue. This is the spring issue that went out.
Yeah, this was like the big reveal. But we had, reached out to, downtown businesses and like people who follow downtown, or people who had taken a really amazing photo or a portrait of them downtown, and we wanted to sort of bring them into the storytelling. So we got, I don't know, just like started all these conversations and like, reached out to new people. And it was like a really, I don't know, I think just like both heartfelt, but also bold way to say that like downtown is here, it's going to stay here. We want you to be part of this and part of the story. And then like, look at all these beautiful people who are contributing to that.
Yeah, it wasn't just this like concept of we're going to show all these people. This depended upon us reaching out to influencers and chefs and hoteliers and business owners downtown and saying, we want you, we want your face, we want your story, we want you to be part of this, because this isn't just some like nice photo collage. This is actively us creating portraits of the community in real time.
Yeah.
And so if you had to think like what success meant for We Are Downtown, how would you define it?
Success to me would just, I would want people to be talking about this and feeling that real connection to the city and specifically to downtown. I think just, working on this project for, getting up to 3 years now, working with the client, like they're so passionate about downtown and like everything it has to offer, and all the people, they love shutting out the business owners, the people that live there, the people that, that work there. And I think like, so I think success is just like having that emotional connection to this important place in Houston and people talking about it.
I love that.
It makes me like, I see that skyline and I see all these people in this photo, and it's like, I feel that, and I miss being there. So like, that to me is success. If I can see this and like feel like a real strong emotional tie, that's important.
I boldly put some words together in terms of what I think success looks like. But to me, I felt very proud of our team in coming together to harness energy that at the time was not positive. You know, it's not that people weren't optimistic or weren't fighting, but it was there was a real strain on all of us. And I felt like success really meant taking that energy and respecting that that's where we were, and not trying to sugarcoat or overpromise or kind of like blindly ignore what was going on, but really building community in the moment and then celebrating them the way that we could, which was honest and bare and direct, but doing that in a way that was immediate and loud. So your articulation was wonderful, and I should have written yours down. Here is one version of it, but I'm really glad that we got the chance to talk about all of this today. This was a super fun campaign that we got to work on. And if you are in Houston or coming to Houston, you can see these elements not only on Downtown Houston's website, but you'll start seeing them actually physically downtown as well soon. You can also find them on the Downtown Houston social channels. They are a new addition to TikTok. So if you, like many of us have been engrossed in TikTok over the last year, go follow them there at downtown_Houston. And then you can also follow along with us in the entire Offset Path series. You can find some of these clips that Bill is in at Sheer Creativity, and that's on us on Instagram. And then, yeah, you can see more of the campaign at We Are Downtown Q.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last words? Any last words? What are you gonna say?
No, thanks for talking with me about it and sharing all your thoughts and all the background. Like, I just really like the way you put things into words and help us tell stories. So I don't know, happy to be here working with you and working with this client.
Amen. I'm happy to be working with you. I'm happy to be working with our client. Shout out to Downtown as a client. They're definitely going to watch this, mostly because we're going to send it to them, but we're so grateful that you partner with us. We are so, we so welcome the opportunity to get to tell all of these stories and shout out our wonderful city. So with that, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks.
See you soon.